Tanya Gill thrills, Loane spills skills, and new countdown kills. I'm David Hood, and this is Deadline, DBN's monthly news program, Dateline Novemberish 2025. For our feature story, there are many terms we use in analyzing diplomacy games here on DBN, words and phrases which have been developed over years of hobby thought to describe certain moves or situations. Sometimes, though, we forget that newer players may not be familiar with all this terminology. Enter our newest segment here on Deadline, the Tactical Thesaurus, designed to help bridge this information gap. Later in this program, we'll talk to Riaz Varani about one particular type of fleet often seen in later stages of a diplomacy game. But first, a look at headlines from around the world of diplomacy. The last regional diplomacy title of 2025 was awarded the second week of November, with the running of the 32nd European Diplomacy Championships in Leiden, the Netherlands. Canadian Tanya Gill took top honors with a commanding performance as Italy on the top board over second-place finisher Philippe Weissert from Germany and British player Mikalis Kamaritis, who came in third. Also at the event, a group of organizers from the UK submitted the winning bid for the 2026 EDC to be held later that year in Chesterfield, with Gary Sturley as the tournament director. A link to this announcement about the UK diplomacy hosting of the European Diplomacy Championship is linked below. In other face-to-face news, Texan Ed Sullivan won the Carnage event in Vermont, held in late October, with other prolific diplomacy players who are playing tournaments, David Miller and Randy Lawrence Hurt, taking silver and bronze. There'll be more later in this program about this year's variant event at Carnage. In late-breaking news, the Australian Open in Canberra has been won by Shane Armstrong, who actually also won the Bismarck Cup, which is a competition like a Grand Prix for all of the Australian diplomacy tournaments. So congratulations to Shane. Also, the Championnat de Brittany was won by Kevin Jezequel, and that was also over the weekend of November 21 and 23rd, just like the Australian Open. And of course, full coverage of the Carnage Australian Open and EDC contest would be available right here on DBN's YouTube channel. As far as upcoming face-to-face events go, you still have time to make the Paris Open the weekend of December 5th through 7th. It will be run at the Hotel La Louisiane by tournament director Olivier Vergen. For more information, look for posts on the Facebook page for the French Diplomacy Association, which is known as the AFDJ, using the link provided in the show notes. There are also 3 tournaments in January, which should be on your radar. On January 17th and 18th, face-to-face diplomacy returns to Baltimore, Maryland, for the first running of the Blazecon event by TD David Miller. The weekend after that, the first regional title of 2026 will be awarded, the Asia Pacific Championship, to be run in Bangkok, Thailand by Sasha Heilman. That same weekend will see the first running of the Steel Showdown in the UK in Middlesborough, which is a 4-round tournament spearheaded by Isaac Jutes. Don't miss these chances to warm up your winter by creating heat over the diplomacy boards at these exciting events. You can find more information about these and upcoming tournaments by perusing either the DBN website's schedule page or the World Diplomacy Reference website. Regular season play and tournament, the top board play for the Australian-based Snakeput Virtual League has concluded for 2025, with Darcy Morris finishing at the top. The Top Board Championship also included Connor Muirhead, Stuart Barton, Max Banks, Liam Healy, Jamal Bucharley, and Cody Miller. In other Virtual League news, the last game day of the season of the U.S.-based Virtual Diplomacy League is scheduled for December 20th, with the top 7 of that league to play for the 6th annual VDL Championship and the resulting automatic berth into February's DBN Invitational coming up in January. That Championship. The UK-based Tour of Britain Virtual League played its last 2 rounds of the season, November 29th and 30th, on the VWDC Discord server, which is also, by the way, where the VDL is played. Justin Lohr was crowned this year's Tour of Britain winner over second-place finisher Christian Brown. Current standings for the European-based virtual league called the 7 Years' War have also been posted on the server, with Dutch player Michael Bloom currently in front. A link to that server is provided below. Now, what about opportunities to play diplomacy in formats other than face-to-face or virtual face-to-face? Fans of playing diplomacy online with press have had several platform options to choose from over the years, although some, such as the Android app Conspiracy, no longer function. One such product, called Primacy, debuted with a splash in 2021, and then there were bugs and other issues which prevented its wide adoption into the hobby. The Primacy developers have relaunched their app recently, which you can access using the link provided. Of course, many of the other more established options are still in use, including Web Diplomacy, V-Diplomacy, Play Diplomacy, and Backstabber. There are also a number of zine-based diplomacy extended deadline games being played with human adjudication by games masters, just as folk have been doing for decades. One can find a list of such zines as a way to access that legacy segment of our hobby by looking at the zine report in the latest issue of Chris Hassler's online gaming zine called SOB. I've given you a link in the show notes. And for those who enjoy playing in online press tournaments and leagues, this just in, the 10th season for the Nexus main event, the Tournament for Classic Diplomacy Play, will launch on February 14th, with sign-ups to begin on January 14th. An invite link to the Nexus Discord server is provided for your convenience. As usual, DBN's The Diplomat Show will provide full coverage of Season 10 Final Board right here on this channel. Each month here on Deadline, we like to highlight the latest and greatest video, audio, or visual content from those whom we call our DBN media partners. The weekly newsletter Diplomacy Briefing is an indispensable source of breaking stories, as well as well-written articles about the game or hobby at large. The November edition of the newsletter, features an update on the relaunch of the Duplicity app as another place to play the game, now including 3 variants, including the 3-player 100 game. It also includes a great piece by Flying Fox Fandango winger Marcus Loane about the weekend of that tournament as a whole and the game that he soloed in particular. Also, the latest edition of Stephen Agar's publication God Save the Zine was released recently, and it is chock full of diplomacy content, in addition to a letter column, games reports, and the rules and map for a variant called Zeus 5. The dip articles in that issue of God Save the Zine include one comparing the recently released Era of Empire to the older Colonial Diplomacy game, a retrospective on all of the physical diplomacy sets ever distributed in Britain, and a piece about that fun Trivial Pursuit question about diplomacy with an answer that is almost certainly wrong. Check out the zines or the links to both of these publications provided below. Here on Deadline, we'd like to keep you, the viewers, informed about how our game of diplomacy is being used in academic circles for teaching, research, or other applications. One academic who has played in our hobby recently, Dennis Peskov, has co-authored a paper with colleagues in the computer or information science departments at Northwestern, Maryland, Southern Cal, and the University of Sydney, and it's focused on using diplomacy to study the detection of deception in negotiations. The authors posit that AI should analyze communications in the game using what is called reinforcement learning, or RL, in contrast to the large language model approach, which, according to the paper, can identify too many deceptive messages as being truthful. So we got a fight between AI people here. After explaining why we could all benefit from better use of artificial intelligence to identify communications not to be trusted, the authors give a thorough examination of the state of past research in the study, focused on triggering friction in order to test statement veracity. A link to the paper is provided below. No doubt our game will continue to be a primary method used by researchers for further investigations on how to tell whether an investment offer, or for that matter, an offer of Belgium, might just be too good to be true. In variant news, the first ever face-to-face playing of the 25-player variant Imperial Diplomacy took place as part of Dave Maletsky's dip event at Carnage in Vermont in late October. Maletsky had also produced the gigantic map used by the players over a series of tables, it's about how big it was, to allow for face-to-face play of this game. The YouTube channel for the Imperial variant community hosted a live stream commentary of this mammoth event in the history of our hobby, with the video reaching an unbelievable 10.5 hours in length. Eat your heart out, Diplostrats. There is also a video on their channel of the award ceremony from Carnage, at which the trophy was awarded to Hobbit playing England, and at which the organizers also announced plans to continue playing face-to-face not only at future Carnage events, but also potentially as part of the 2027 World DipCon in Chicago. So navigate to that channel using the link provided. The 2025 diplomacy season is drawing to a close. So you all know what that means, don't you? The race for a spot in the 28-person field for the next DBN Invitational Tournament is hot and heavy. So Brian Pravel and new co-host Brandon Austin have released an episode of Countdown right here on DBN to monitor who's in, who's not, and who's on the bubble. If you did not catch that episode, a link is provided in the show notes. Those with automatic bids from big wins this season in regional or world events include Zoe Cameron, Noam Brown, Tanya Gill, and Andrew Wu, with top prospects right now for the at-large bids being Jamal Blacarley, Michael Blum, Justin Lohr, David Miller, and others. Who is currently in 29th place and thus in danger of being left outside in the cold? One Brandon Fogel, no less. In addition to covering the current field of contestants, Brian and Brandon also focused on the rookie watch list to see the race for the best fresh face on the circuit this season, as well as a list of players currently ineligible for the Invitational because they have yet to play a virtual face-to-face game this season. Come on, guys, get on the stick. February Fever will be here soon, so stay tuned right here on DBN to see that 28-person field finalized in the next couple of months. Next, for our latest in our series of segments we call Where to Play, in which we interview a hobbyist about an upcoming opportunity for diplomacy play, whether that be online, face-to-face, or in this case a combination of the two, which we call virtual face-to-face. This month we talked to primary virtual diplomacy championship organizer Jonnie Gillam of New York about the next VDC, which is scheduled for early January. Jonnie, welcome back to Deadline.
Pleasure to be here as always, David.
Great. All right. And before we talk about all things VDC, give us a little diplomacy origin story and also tell us what you do when you're not playing or organizing diplomacy games.
Aha. It's bold of you to assume that I have anything else to do other than play and organize diplomacy. But I started playing back in college. We used to play at the history department, and I was fanatical about it, and all of my other history friends wanted to play other things, so I very quickly stopped playing with them and started playing with you folks. And I am an immigration lawyer in my personal life, and I play a lot of diplomacy.
Well, and we're glad you do, but more importantly, you organize. And as far as DIP goes, DBN viewers would have seen you recently as a commentator on the November edition of League Night, as well as for your second place finish at this year's North American Championships in Chicago. So lots of exposure lately, Jonnie. What about this hobby keeps you coming back for more?
Well, it's the best game ever made, with the possible exception of Go. But the problem with Go is that people have been playing it for thousands of years and they're really good at it. Diplomacy, by comparison, it's a cakewalk. Wow. I have a new circle of friends with whom I'm playing a lot of board games, which didn't used to be the case when I was a bartender. And the more board games I play, the more I realize that diplomacy is the only good board game. Everything else just pales in comparison, in my opinion.
It's a different board game.
It's so fun. It's so fun. But yeah, the shout out to Andrew, the winner of the DipCon in Chicago. I think it's worth blasting from the mountaintops that New York went to Chicago and came back with first and second place, and it is absolutely Chicago's turn to answer.
I like it. I like the gauntlet being thrown, and we'll see if those Chicago people will pick it up.
That's right.
All right, so you have got yourself a long history with the Virtual Diplomacy Championship. I looked it up, starting with the second running of this event in December of 2021. Tell us the format and the structure of this event, first of all, if you would.
Sure. So the Virtual Diplomacy Championship is kind of the great remnant of all of the virtual championships that were happening in the COVID era. There were at one time as many as one a month. Many of those were in-person tournaments that went transferred to virtual, including DixieCon, during the COVID and during the pandemic, and have now transferred back. The VDC was kind of created to be a real capstone to all of those other tournaments, and it's the one that's made for virtual. So you play online. We actually have 7 rounds, so we have a ton of availability starting on Friday night Eastern time, ending on Sunday morning. We have rounds in time that's good for Europe and also time that's good for Australia. You play a maximum of 4 rounds. It's all held in Discord. It kind of feels like face-to-face, but you just play and talking to one another as if you're over the phone. And then there'll be a top board for the top 7 players the following weekend.
And that board will determine the champion of that year's VDC.
That's right.
Well, for those who have not tried virtual before, and you've mentioned this a little bit, it uses Discord, it uses Backstabber. Describe the manner of negotiation and order writing and adjudication, just for those that are watching this that have never dipped their foot yet in the pool.
I'm happy to. If you've played face-to-face diplomacy, it's actually a really straightforward transfer. It's made to model face-to-face diplomacy as closely as possible. So all you have to do is learn the technology, and the technology is not too complicated, and you're pretty much ready to go. Everybody jumps into a voice call, if you picture like a Zoom, but you can't see anybody's face. And there are 7 little sub-rooms, 1 for each power. So England has their own little room. And when the clock hits go, everybody starts going into everyone else's rooms and negotiating just like you would, the corners of a room if you were playing face to face. We play on a website called Backstabber, so you click your orders in. It's actually a lot easier, in my opinion, than writing them down physically. It's harder to misorder. You just kind of got to get used to it. But you're looking at a map of diplomacy. Bulgaria goes to Constantinople, or whatever it is. It's pretty straightforward.
I mean, sometimes it does. And sometimes Constantinople goes to Bulgaria in spring of 2001, sometimes.
It's not my preferred opening. I like Conda Ankh personally.
Well, I would not be surprised about that. All right. Again, for those that may not have tried this before, what is your advice for how many of those preliminary rounds, those 7 rounds, how many should people play? I mean, what is sensible for people who are competing in their first VDC?
We, after feedback, are capping folks at 4 rounds this year. So you may not play more than 4. I suggest the 1 year that I won VDC or Summer Classic. I don't know, one of these.
You have never won VDC, but keep going.
Summer Classic then. I only played 3. And okay. I topped 3 and went to the top board. I recommend that strategy. I think 4 is excessive. It's too much time. Play 3, get 3 tops, on you go. I think that's the strategy. But 4 is fine, even if you just want to play 1 round. If you're somebody who used to play back in the old days of COVID, don't find enough time anymore, I totally understand. But we're happy to have you just play 1 round, dip your feet back in, remember what virtual is like. There's a big group of people playing. And maybe you'll get the bug and stay up all night and play all 3 rounds consecutively. It's been known to happen.
Well, and for those that have been, playing in face-to-face events during the season, and they may well qualify for the DBNI, they need to play at least 1 virtual game in order to compete in the DBN Invitational, right?
That's exactly right. And there's not a lot going on for you the weekend of January 10th. I already know. So you don't have much of an excuse. Just hop on, play a game. It's a lot of fun, low stakes, and you'll be able to play the DBNI.
True enough. All right. So if somebody is interested in this, how would you sign up?
There will be a Google form posted in the link to the episode of Deadline News that you are watching. Otherwise, you can find that Google form on the Discord server, any of the Diplomacy Discord servers, VWDC, and NADF. I assume those will also be posted in the description of this video. And you can email me if you can't find any of that, jagillam6@hotmail.com. I will get you signed up.
Gillam for Gillam, just to make sure people know that.
Thanks.
All right. So sometimes the VDC is described as like a co-equal hobby championship, with the World DipCon or the WDC filling that role for face-to-face, and then the ODC, the Online Diplomacy Championship, filling that role for extended deadline. Is the VDC important to the hobby overall, do you think, and why?
I think it's critically important, personally. I think that virtual is by far the most accessible format of the game for people who either don't have the money or the time to fly out to face-to-face championships. I mean, I go to a lot of face-to-face tournaments, and I speak from experience that it is time-consuming, expensive, difficult to plan. It's not a simple thing. There are plenty of folks around the world, especially if you don't live in North America or France or Australia, where that's just not feasible. But you can still play in the WDC or the VWDC, right? And so
the VDC.
VDC. Yeah, there's too many acronyms. So I think it's really accessible, and I think that's really important. And the more we grow it, the more that it can become a prestigious event, comparable, to the World DipCon in that way. And it's also this is how I started playing the game during COVID. This is how I got into it. It was easier for me to start playing in this kind of format, playing VDL, playing VDC. I don't think I would have just showed up at a diplomacy tournament. Socially, that's just kind of a big ask. But it's not that hard to just hop on, play a game or two of online diplomacy, and then if you catch the bug, you can kind of build up from there. So it's a really great starting point for folks too.
Catch the bug and meet other players
that
you will be seeing face-to-face if you go to a face-to-face event.
That's right. And then it's really fun to show up to a face-to-face event, and there's all these names that and you know their voice, but you never seen their face. That's a lot of fun.
If I remember correctly, you and I did that in 2021 when we went to the DipCon in Vermont after the COVID era.
That's right. You drove me to Carnage. Yeah.
That was, and then we met all these people that we'd only known virtually for the last 2 years. It was really kind of.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really fun.
All right. Well, what do you think it takes for someone who's competing in the event to actually get to the VDC top board?
Well, it's been competitive. Last year it was a really, really competitive top board, and it has been for most of the times that the VDC has existed. It really takes consistency. You really need, it's okay to have a middling score or two, but one big score and two low scores is not going to get you there, right? You need to show up and place well on your boards multiple times. And really, you probably need two tops. Last year, folks who had one top and some second places were not making the top 7. So it'll depend on, strength of competition, how many people show up. But realistically, it's all about consistency.
Well, let's talk about strength of competition. The previous VDC champs are in order: Morgante Pell, Nicolas Sahuge, Riaz Varani, Jamal Blakarli, and Jackson Roberts. Talk to us about who those people are.
Yeah, you ever heard of any of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
You just listed some of the best players in the game. I think Jamal is the best player, period, to play diplomacy right now. Nicolas Sahuge is no slouch. He's won I don't know how many world championships. Riaz is a great player. These are all great players, right? And Jackson also is maybe a player that folks are not as familiar with, but Jackson is one of the geniuses of the hobby. I really think he is. He has a brilliance to the way that he plays diplomacy. So if you want to join the ranks of that hollowed group of folks, there's really only one way. And maybe once we get to 7, we'll have a top board of the 7 winners.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Well, once you get on the top board, you said it was consistency that'll get you to the top board. How do you think those players were able to win the top board of the VDC? Just in a general sense.
Every top board is different, a top board, these long tournaments, weekend-long tournaments become a kind of a marathon rather than a sprint, right? A lot of the times you just need to retain your wits into Sunday. That's true of face-to-face tournaments too, and some people don't, and those are the people who don't make the top board. The top board is different. It's a question of timing. It's a question of, making sure that you're everybody else's second choice. That's often said about top boards, and that's definitely true in virtual as well. Once people realize that they can't win, who do they prefer? You need that to be you. You need your timing to be right, and you need a lot of luck, frankly.
Wait, I thought diplomacy was a game with no luck. What are you talking about?
No randomness.
No randomness. Okay. All right, Johnny, I appreciate all this about VDC. While I've got you here, do you want to talk a little bit about another one of your hobby activities, which is the Diplo Rats Club in New York City?
Oh, yeah. The Diplorats Club in New York City is the winningest diplomacy club. Go ahead.
Of course, someone would call me in the middle of this, but keep going, Johnny.
So they're calling to talk to you about the Diplorats. They heard us talking. We're the winningest.
One possibility among many.
The winningest diplomacy club in the country right now. We are the greatest diplomacy club. We have the greatest players. We have the most fun. If you are anywhere near New York City, you need to be playing with the Diplorats. There is much in the works about upcoming Diplorats activities. So stay tuned to hear more about New York City diplomacy. But if you are anywhere in the area, please reach out. We would love to play with you.
All right, two things. First of all, how would someone who believes all of that hyperbole want to get involved with the Diplorats? How would they do it?
Again, on the Discord, if you go to the NADF or the WDC servers, there will be links to our server. Alternatively, again, you're welcome to send me an email, and I will. We do have like an email listserv, so I could get you in touch that way too.
All right, and secondly, what is all this mysterious? Something's happening. Something's brewing. This is a news show. We can break the news. What do you got to tell us? Anything? Have you got anything you can tell us publicly right now?
I can't comment at this stage. I don't have authorization from my superiors to comment at this juncture. The truth is, so I'll speak honestly. We are looking at a diplomacy tournament in New York City.
There we
this year.
There we go.
We have dates, but there are venue negotiations that have yet to be worked out. So don't buy any tickets yet, but stay tuned. It really is going to happen. Me and Peter Cook are going to do it probably this summer.
That is awesome. And I can tell you from experience that a tournament in New York City has been discussed for the last 4 decades without having happened. So this is great that you are this close to being able to make it happen.
Yeah, we are. It's going to happen, and it should be very fun. And the Diplorats will obviously clean house, but if you want to come challenge us, we'll accept the challenge.
All right, trash talker Jonnie Gillam, thanks so much for being, frankly, for all you bring to this hobby, and best of luck with the VDC and the Diplorats.
Why, David, you're so welcome, and thank you so much for hosting me. And everyone, check out Cedric's channel, The Moral Medicist, on YouTube, because he's getting a second talking head to join him on that channel, and you might recognize them.
Oh my gosh. All right, fair enough. Appreciate that warning and advertisement. Jonnie Gillam, thanks for being on that.
Bye, David.
And now for our feature presentation. It is time for a totally new feature here on Deadline, which we are calling the Tactical Thesaurus. We'll talk about one specific tactical concept in diplomacy to help those learning the game to enhance their hobby vocabularies. We'll break down what the term means, how to use it, and how to recognize its possible use by others. This month, we consult everyone's favorite Canadian tactician, Riaz Virani, about the concept of pirates and how you can use pirate units to steal the tactical advantage from your opponents. Well, ahoy there, Riaz. Thanks for coming back to the show to talk about pirates. And no, I have no idea why that topic seemed appropriate. But before we do that, for those that may not have heard you before, tell us a little bit about how you got into diplomacy and why you're still here.
David, there's something different about you this evening. Is it a new haircut?
I have had a haircut since the last time you saw me. That's true. That is true.
I don't know what it is, but I'll keep a keen eye on it, and we'll figure it out.
That's quite an insight. But keep
in terms of my history playing diplomacy, I started out in my early 20s playing play by email, a lot of extended deadline, and eventually got good enough where there were tournaments happening in the Pacific Northwest, in Seattle, in Portland, and I said, well, you know what, I'll go out, and met a few people from Vancouver, and we all went down together. And of course, just like everybody else, you catch the bug, right? The face-to-face bug. I got a chance to play at WAC. I got a chance to play in Oregon, and I got a chance to play in the late Buzz Eddy's tournament in Dragonflight. Now,
right,
I did get a Division 4 Dragonflight trophy, but I still have no idea what the divisions are about. But God bless Eddie. We all, or Buzz, we all miss him.
Yeah, definitely God rest his soul. All right. Well, of course, we're here to talk about one particular tactical subject, which is pirates, or maybe the more generic term raiders. So let's set the stage here. How important do you think tactical expertise can be in deciding one's success in this game, maybe in contrast to negotiation ability or strategic vision, something like that?
Well, all this Pirates and Raiders talk brings up an old NFL film segment. Are you an NFL fan?
I am.
You've probably seen this before about the autumn wind is a Raider. Lots of good memories listening to that, and a few other ones. But in terms of your question, the game is diplomacy, right? The game is called diplomacy, but really, you have to have a really good tactical and strategic mind to be able to bring the good diplomacy that you do, to be able to bring that forward and to be rewarded for it. Without that, you rely quite a bit on luck. Just like in everyday regular life, you have to set a goal and you need to take steps to achieve that goal and execute them. Same way without tactics, taking good tactics, some of those steps are difficult, and really to get that success that you want, you have to rely a lot on luck.
Wait, luck? I thought this game didn't have any luck.
All
right.
By Odin's beard, I figured it out.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
You got it. Are you auditioning for Pirates of the Caribbean play?
Well, I'm not going to audition, but if they come to me and offer the role, I'm not going to grovel. But I do feel like I particularly fit some of the characters. All right. So, in diplomatic terms, what is a pirate, and why do pirates matter in diplomacy terms?
That's actually a really great question, David. There's two ways to think of a pirate. One, all of us, when you play long enough, you've seen it. There's the player who's just takes refuge in a certain spot. Like we've all seen the army in North Africa. That's one. But I think what you're referring to here is whether it's for whatever reason, one of your units has gotten behind enemy lines, and now it becomes an agent of chaos, and it's able to do a whole bunch of different things. And that's typically what we see in the Raider and the Pirate, and that can be really fun when it's you who's behind those lines. But the other way, sometimes not so much.
Sometimes the Army Raider, the pirate is kind of the fleet raider. The Army Raider is sometimes referred to in hobby writing as a highwayman. Is there a substantial difference between having a raiding unit that's an army versus a raiding unit that's a fleet?
It depends. It depends on where the most useful, what in that part of the board, what the most useful thing is. For example, in the center of the board, if you have an army that's gotten behind the lines, if you've got an Army Raider, that is extremely useful because now all of a sudden stalemate lines come into play. If you slip into, say, Vienna, and you're able to creep south, or you get past Munich, that's great. But there are, of course, also places where that Raider army are not as useful. Like, for example, Scandinavia. That's probably a less effective spot. And same way with fleets, right? Same way sometimes those fleets work much better in places like the Mediterranean, to be able to break into places like the Mid-Atlantic. That's a great spot for a Raider.
Yeah, I'm picturing in games past an Austrian army in Ruhr is a good Raider, or an Italian fleet that's gotten into the North Atlantic or something can be a really effective raiding unit.
Absolutely.
Is having a raider something that you think you can plan for intentionally, or is it more like a strategy of opportunity when a unit happens to get kicked out and retreats a particular place?
I would say typically it's more of a miscalculation on somebody else's part. Or there are times where, you're just trying to do something to cut a support of a specific attack, and the other person attacks in an unexpected way. And now all of a sudden you've gotten into a spot where they really don't want you to be in. For the most part, I think that's typically, would you agree that that's typically what
You mean like, I didn't realize you could retreat there, or I forgot you could retreat there. I didn't contain the retreat correctly, something like that.
Absolutely. But I mean, you can also do this from an offensive strategy. Like I've seen things like an Austria and a Turkey executing forward retreats to get into spots in the Med to really compromise Italy's position. So I mean, there definitely, it can be planned. It's less common than the accidental oops that happens.
You're thinking like there's an Allied fleet in the Ionian, so you kick it out intentionally so that it can retreat after it sees the Italian moves, for example.
You got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, can it be the right move not to do that, not to keep a raider behind the lines, but instead to disband it and rebuild it closer to home? In other words, is there a situation, or are there situations where the raider is sort of not the most effective use of the unit?
Absolutely, and that's a really great question. I think it depends, of course, on your board position and the dynamics around you. If you're in a strong alliance and everybody's been moving their units away, so that you're in a less threatened position, then you probably want to play that unit forward. But if you're feeling a little bit of extra paranoia, or you're starting to see that things are shifting away from you, and or people are moving towards you, or you might be more vulnerable than you normally would, sometimes destroying that unit and rebuilding is definitely very valuable. And it can also take some of the temperature down in the conflict that you're having. So it can definitely help open up more options for you. But of course, if you're in an alliance and this has been arranged and you deviate from it, that can also be a bit of a tricky explanation.
Well, indeed. You know, it occurs to me that the times that I could remember most effectively raiding, or seeing other people effectively use a raiding unit, is when their situation is a little bit dire. So they're kind of throwing the dice by sending the raider out or leaving the raider behind the lines. Whereas if you're really doing well and you're sort of on top of the game and you're leading the board or topping the board or something, then sometimes having your units closer together is more effective. But if you're losing, so to speak, or if you're out of position, sometimes the raider can be a way to try to sort of shake the board up.
Absolutely. And it all depends on your position, right? I mean, in my younger days, and my beginning stages of diplomacy, I'd often want, this perfectly neat board with no chaos, nothing behind me. But then over time, I learned that it was a hard lesson, partly because when I'm playing games, sometimes I got a little bit of OCD here, trying to get perfect order in spots where there may not be. But I learned over time that if you have a strong enough position, and really it might be one center that over the long term that you might lose, because you have other opportunities to chase it, to limit the damage, but still have good expansion opportunities elsewhere. Letting that unit go and getting that person out of position is not necessarily a bad thing.
So in terms of dealing with a raiding unit,
yes.
What would you say the general strategies are there? I know you've already mentioned one, but what do you think the general strategies are?
The general strategies in terms of dealing with such a unit are to do whatever's in your best interest. So, like I'd said, if it's less dangerous to have that one unit go where it needs to go, and you can chase it around with one of your spare units to limit the damage, but it gives you an opportunity to advance your position, then that's great. But sometimes you do need to chase that, especially if you're trying to hold a line. Then you would definitely need to pull something or back, and maybe invite one of your allies' units to help as well, which can be good and sometimes not so good, right?
I'm remembering in the latest Olympus final, I think it was, or it could have been the Nexus final, where there was a raider in Skagerrak. And it was really tying down a lot of units because they didn't spend the time to just kill the unit, which of course is hard to do if it's got a lot of places to retreat to.
Yep, definitely. Excellent point.
All right. So what is the relationship between the concept of a raider or a pirate and then the concept of a janissary? I mean, can these things be related?
They can be related, but they typically are not, unless at least in my opinion. I mean, everybody has a different take, but I typically defined a janissary as somebody who has a stated goal that is an orderly goal, sort of to either to help advance somebody else's position or to just get into a useful position to stop something. Whereas a raider is just pretty much, at least in my opinion, it's a unit designed to create chaos and designed to create massive disruption. But certainly, I'm sure there are times when that can go either way, or there might be times when that raider unit can become a janissary unit. Say it takes something like Portugal or some other spot and allows somebody, the person that they're helping, to advance further and give themselves a shot at survival.
Yeah, I can see, like, if the English are invading the Mediterranean and they've got a very, very junior league France, they may have the French fleet, going off in the Mediterranean, and you're supporting it with having France hold Brest or keep Brest instead of taking it from them. That's, to me, would be an example of using a raiding unit or a pirate in a janissary position. You're using it to help the English.
Absolutely, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Well, any final thoughts about pirates here, matey?
No final thoughts. You've given me lots of food for thought, and I hope to not have to do some of that raiding and to be the one that causes the chaos. But it's fun either way. So I'm sure the next time we play, let's create a little bit of chaos.
Well, shiver me timbers, you've given us great booty straight from Davy Jones' locker, you have. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, lad.
Thank you, David. It was always a pleasure, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, Rio. It's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you watching at home. We hope you have enjoyed this broadcast of Deadline. If you have news, ideas for features, or feedback of any kind, please feel free to send an email to info@diplobn.com, or you can drop me a line directly using davidhood@dixicon.com. To review all of our broadcast offerings, visit our website at www.diplobn.com. This is David Hood signing off. I wish you brightness and bliss and, of course, Belgium. Arr!